This episode is sponsored by Alberta Blue Cross and was created to help inspire discussions around the importance of taking care of your health, whether it be mental, physical, social, or even financial. We are proud to provide our Socality House team members with Alberta Blue Cross employee health benefits to help them live their best lives. We're back with the Socality Show. Levi, you love the black socks, hey?
I told you last time I can't keep my white socks white, and so I have to buy black socks.
They're so intense.
I know.
I'm team black socks.
Don't you have a lot of bleach?
I thought skaters were all about white socks.
I grew up in a different era.
Yeah,
I grew up in black
You're an
skin-tight
old
pants.
skater.
Yes, I'm an old man.
Are you going to Walmart and getting like the Hanes His Way 9-pack?
The problem is I have very large feet, and so I need very tall socks in order to go past where my pants.
You got the tall boys.
But why are they so tall? Are you hiking them up?
I roll up my pants a bunch of times. Yeah.
But the socks, are you hiking them up?
I got them up on my knees right now. Yeah.
What's the point of these tattoos if they're covered in this big black sock?
I don't know. It's for me.
I like it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's cool.
Summertime.
You learn something new every day. All right, we're actually going to talk about something. Today we're talking about creativity and burnout. The big burnout, running out of steam.
Uh-oh.
Got nothing left in me. You know what it's like?
Yeah, let's go.
You know what it's like?
You know what it's like when you hit the wall?
Unfortunately.
Too well. Yeah.
Too well. But I mean, this is a huge thing. There's the other podcast, and I encourage people to go listen to it about productivity and purpose. And I hope we define some things that helped people in that. But we want to help people in this too. And I think you can only help people when you're honest with yourself and with the things that are holding you back. And I know for me, I've definitely experienced some burnout. I know that some days I just come in the office and I'm like, John, you're done. We always walk in like,
you're done.
We have this relationship, because we work together. We're just like, how are you today? And we both we can relate on so many levels, because it just sometimes I think when you're doing so much and you're carrying so much, and it's hard to choose what gets your energy when kind of everything has life and momentum. It's like, it's like they say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but what if all the wheels are squeaky? You know what I mean? It's like everything's kind of like got energy here, and this needs all of me, this needs all of me, and this needs all of me. And it's just like, there's only so much of you go around. And I think that, when it comes to talk about, and I've seen this in so many times with some of our friends in the early days that we met who were active on social as photographers or whatever, and they've just disappeared.
Totally.
And not saying they're still not doing stuff,
yeah.
But I mean, it just is like they just gave up or quit, it's like.
Or the pace was just unsustainable.
Yeah.
Or life shifts but we were talking about that before we started this, just that strange dual mix of, we talked about this in the other podcast about how important consistency is.
Right.
But then how do you marry consistency and showing up so much, with the fact that can equal parts breed burnout? Like if
consistency and sustainability.
Yeah. So how do you have both?
Yeah.
And I think that's
and even recognizing that you are burnt out, because I feel like that's like some people don't even know it. They're just like, why am I've got nothing left to give. And it's like, you are burnt out.
What are some symptoms of burnout?
Ooh.
Because burnout is clinical. Right?
I'm not a doctor, but I mean, I would say for me, just feeling low on energy. I would say lack of vision. When I'm unexcited about life. When I can't get excited about, and I'm an easily excitable person, but when I'm not excited, lack of vision. When I feel unmotivated to accomplish something, when I'm just like, over it, couldn't be bothered.
I think avoidance, like when you start avoiding things you would not normally avoid.
Another thing for me, I know when I'm really burnt out is when I just say things when I'm not mindful of other people's feelings, because I'm just so almost too tired to
You're not censoring yourself anymore.
I'm not censoring myself, and maybe a little.
Which can be fun.
But when you are on your best, you're very aware of everybody, and you're meeting people's needs. But I think when you are not capable to do that for others, it's a sign that you yourself have nothing left to give.
Totally.
You know, and it's not a healthy place, because that's when you hurt people.
Yeah. You can't carry yourself the way that you want to.
That's right.
I would say brain fog is like a big one for me.
Yeah.
If I'm walking around like a zombie, kind of just fully out of it.
Just walking down the street, there goes Levi. Whoa. I'm like, Levi's burnt out, guys.
Levi's levitating off his
He's just,
skateboard.
whoa.
No, but you're just when I can't concentrate on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this moment, and this will get weird unless you guys know what I'm talking about. But like I said in the last one, I have ADHD, but I take this thing called Vyvanse, and if on the days that I need to be productive, and there's between 9 and 10 hours, in that hour, if I try to get anything done, because when I'm on medication, I can't multitask, but I can get everything done really fast.
Right.
When I'm off it, I can multitask, but I can't get anything done because I'm just like multitasking too much. Like I'm just doing whatever. So then in that 9 to 10 hours, it's worn enough that I can start to think I can multitask, but then I can't actually do it.
Right.
And so then it's literally just like I get halfway there on all this stuff, and then I get so tired. And if my wife comes home during that time or like comes to where we're at, like we usually get in a fight because I'm just like, just stop, I can't. And then she's just like, you're a jerk, and she just leaves the room.
Like, what's going on?
Then I'm like, oh my gosh. But then I've learned to time it, literally to learn to be like, okay, when do I take this so that I have a half hour? And I've had to be self-aware. And again, that you don't even have to be on the medication to be able to be that self-aware of. It's like to know that it's like, do I need a breather? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to go to the bathroom? Do I need to do whatever to take a breath, speak some positive self-talk over myself into the mirror, whatever, and then be okay, I got this, and then go back. But that's just like a short-term fix. I wouldn't say that's like ultimate rest or anything like that. But
For burnout, for me, it's like if I'm crying, like
Right.
that's a burnout.
Right,
that's a good
That's
sign.
what I know.
You break down.
It's like your body like starts to do things, and you're just like, I'm not sleeping, or I am sleeping too much. I'm crying in my sleep. Like it's like the alarm system's going off.
You've got to recognize those things. What do you think causes burnout? Like, I mean, I know it's in the industry we're in, we're all kind of creators, and you're active on social apps and in the creative world and content. And then there's obviously other spheres of life for our listeners, people working other jobs or fields of their profession, and it's easy to get burnt out. What do you think are some of the things that cause burnout?
For me, it's like I'm trying to get that bread. I'm trying to make that money.
Right.
But like
that bread.
trying to get the bag.
I'm trying to like
Which probably is the number one reason. Yeah.
It's
the
everywhere.
focaccia. I like the focaccia.
But like
dip it in a little oil and vinegar.
What's happening is if I don't price myself like as a creator like fairly,
Right.
I burn myself out because I'm not a machine, right? Like, so we're trying to
You're not?
commodify. Well,
I thought you were.
actually, some people would beg to differ, but yeah, like it has to be a fair exchange, right?
Yeah.
It has to be, if you're putting your energy, if you're commodifying off your energy, it has to be like you get the same in return. And I feel like that's a huge issue for us as creatives sometimes, is that like, it's really draining. It's physically hard to be a creator.
I feel like another thing is like keeping up with the trends. Like keeping up with it, like what you're doing worked. And then in order for it to grow, there's always going to be someone younger, someone faster, someone better, someone smarter that comes behind you and just like figures it out and just flies past you. And then you're just like, oh man, like now I gotta pivot, or I gotta, you know what I mean? Now there's a new app. I gotta learn a new app. Oh wait, there's a new editing tool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, wait, what's the trending sound? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like in order to keep up with the trends, you have to be like ahead of the game, which means you have to be like putting energies into that. But in order to do that, you need time, and I feel like younger people just have more time. And so they're able to figure these things out, whereas as you get into the work and productive mode, you're working, right? And then you're like, wow, the trends, they seem to like bypass you. And then all of a sudden you're just like, I can't keep up with this.
I don't think anybody's doing that kind of stuff long term. Like any of that trend chasing or cloud chasing or growth is all like short term for
It's
almost
short-term.
anybody. Like it's a means to an end. Like I don't know if anybody.
But in order to see success, sometimes you got to be on a trend.
Oh, totally. No, I mean it's probably the quickest way that people are growing
Right.
social media accounts, right? Like, and even early, I would even say that's not. It's easy to look at TikTok and Reels and stuff now and see it there, but I look 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago on Instagram, and it was actually the same thing. People were just doing that with photos. There was just like photo trends.
Right.
Everyone's going to the same places. Everyone's shooting the same style. This was popular. Oh, now everyone's into this. Okay.
But they do this you talk about burnout. They do this on TikTok. Like, here's 3 ways to grow your social media. Here's 5 things you're not doing. And you're just like, what am I doing wrong? Tell me what's the 5th one? I need to watch this whole video. And it's just like,
and then it's in part 2.
And then you watch again and like 3 ways to grow your business. And it's just like, I feel like car salesman every time. I'm like, whoa, like it just feels like constant. I'm a loser. You know what I mean?
Oh
like,
my God.
you know what I mean? Because it's like, there's so much, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, how about just watch my content because you like it versus like, I have to do here's 3 things you need to do to feed the algorithm. It's like, okay, I'm not doing that. And then you've got to pivot the things that you're passionate about. All of a sudden you're doing these things just to get views. And then you're just like, this is not even where I'm passionate.
It's
You're
interesting.
So far off, yeah.
Because that also comes back though to the last episode we did where you brought up the whole purpose before productivity kind of piece, right? So I think even getting off that train of going,
this is what I'm saying.
Don't hop on the train if it's like, oh, just because everyone's doing it, so do you. Well, no. What's your whole reason for being in these platforms?
That's right.
Why are you in these spaces? What are you trying to create? Yes, use a trending sound or a tool or a reel or a TikTok video if that specific piece of content empowers your vision or the thing you're trying to create or helps you build the platform and build the community and connect with a group of people. But if it's just because you're like, everybody else is doing it, like I'm FOMO missing out, like then
like I saw this one girl say,
you're gonna burn
here's
out.
what's out on TikTok, here's what's in. Out is this and in is it's like what? Like I was just with the in and now I'm with the out. Like you know what I mean? I'm out. And so it just feels like I think part of the burnout is the feeling that you can't keep up and understanding that sometimes you just got to come into the pocket of who you are, what you do, and like you said, your purpose behind it.
Right, it's your why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's your why.
Yeah, if you forget your why, like you can only go like a couple weeks and then you're just like, what am I even doing?
And then
what
you end up in these spaces that you shouldn't even be. You're not even functioning in these spaces. And you're burnt out. And you're like, I'm burnt out. It's like, well, guys, because the things that you love to do give you energy.
Yeah.
Right.
If you love it, you're just like energized by it. You're like, I love creating this style of content. This is what makes me happy.
It's like you guys and hiking in canoes.
Yeah.
That sounds like hell to me, and you guys are all about
Are
it.
you really? That canoe sounds like a hell thing to
No,
you?
okay, it's not hell, but the 3 hours that you had to climb a mountain with a canoe on your back. Does
No
not
one's
sound fun to
climbing
me.
a mountain with a canoe. What are you talking about?
I've gone on
You're
hikes with you
shook.
guys before and been like, let's go shoot photos. And it was a very long time before we got there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, a hike, but
hike
not
does
hiking
take
with a
time.
canoe.
Okay.
Usually the canoes are the pull up.
Yeah, a canoe's at a pull up.
If I'm on a hike with you guys pulling
Have we
a
done
canoe
you dirty?
for 3 hours,
We've
I've
done you
lost my
dirty.
why.
Right. Yeah.
Lost my
But there
why.
are some hikes you gotta. There are long.
I'm just kidding.
That's
Yeah.
not the path for Levi. No.
Yeah.
What about when we got the view that wasn't beautiful to you?
I
He
tried to
would
start
rather
a
be
fire.
skateboarding.
You'd rather start a. You'd
Yeah.
rather. But
He'd
see,
rather
then
be
there you
skateboarding.
go.
Yeah, I
You'd
tried
rather
to start a
be.
fire, and that
you-
was fun.
So if you were hiking to a beautiful view, you're not in your why.
No, but
You're
if
gonna
I
be
could hike
burnt
to a
up.
cliff jump, if I could
Yeah.
hike to like swim naked up in some mountain
Yeah.
thing,
That's your why.
or like light something on fire, or dude, like I'm into it.
What kind of life are you living?
I know. This is
But I need it's hard
He needs
because
the
you need
thrill.
a thrill.
He
Yeah,
needs
yeah.
growing
the
up,
thrill.
growing up skateboarding, jumping off stuff, I got addicted to
Yeah.
that feeling, and then it's hard. I've chased that a lot. It's
You
like,
know
let's
what?
try.
Hiking can be like that too. There's some scary
Okay.
hikes out here.
That's what people say about the gym. It's like just your gains can be it's so scary.
I mean,
Terrifying.
the pump.
Yeah. Okay, but what about like mastering your craft? You know, I feel like a lot of these apps like TikTok are it's all about how much and quantity. But when I've worked with dancers before, let it be in film or training with dancers, there's such a different energy about honing your craft, or even as a photographer, right? Like going and finding mentorship and really getting to the details of stuff and like doing that for a 10-year period. How do we honor that in a society where like what we're rewarded from is fast?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's back to that why piece though, right?
Mhm.
Because I think there's entertainers, there's, like I think it comes back to what, I've met so many different types of creators over the years, and you
Mhm.
can tell the ones that are like artists.
Right.
And I'm not saying that everybody isn't an artist to an
Mhm.
extent, but you understand the nuance that I'm getting at there. There's like, I
Mhm.
think there's people that love to create things,
Mhm.
but they're in it. Their sole purpose isn't to be an art, to be like a master. Right. They're like, I love taking photos, but like I mostly do it so I can hang out with my friends. That's or true. I mostly do it because I like traveling, or, you know, or pick your kind of, it's a means to this vehicle, but if you took the art from them, but you gave them the rest, they'd probably still be fine.
Right.
You know, and then there's like the artist that's like, I can't not write or take photos or make videos or paint. Like, you could remove the internet and you could take everything else away, but they're like, no, it's like you skateboarding, right? It's like you going, that's my domain, right? And I think it's a difference. And so it's knowing that, you know, and I think sometimes you end up there because you start somewhere. But I think, yeah, and that's, I mean, again, this circles back to the self-discovery that we talked about and the, you know, all of that, but that's my.
And I think another thing is like when you start something, you're pumped on it. And then you get into it and you're like, this is a lot of work. So you're blogging and you're like, I got to write. And writing's a lot of work. Yeah. Like you got to put your brain there. Then you got to, you know, your mind's got to be there. And then you got to come up with these thoughts. And then you got to write it out. Then you got to like get it in the website. Then you got to get the pictures. Then you got to post it. And then, you know, you got to do that all the time. And then you go in from what you were excited about, which is communicating to people, telling your story. But then there's the work part that can be draining, like the actual admin of it. And then there's the maintenance of it. And I think the maintenance of things takes away sometimes the life source, because it's like you're just in a machine. Like you said, you're not a machine. And then you realize that in order to grow things and scale things, you actually need more manpower and you need others. But then it's like, well, that's delegation or that's money. I don't have money to pay people. And before you know it, you're like doing all of it yourself. And you're just like, man, I'm just caught in such a machine or a rut of it, and I'm not even enjoying the sole reason why I started it.
We touched on this a little bit in between. We didn't actually record.
We should be recording the in between
all the time. But you're talking about mindset,
right?
And how, and I think that what you just got at there is a little bit of that, because I think we believe lies that then lead us. Because like I'll be the first to acknowledge, probably a lot of my burnout comes from mindset breakdowns, where I believe that like I'm the only one that can do all of this.
Right.
Totally.
Lie. Right. Like, of course you're not. Like there's, you know, I can't ask for help because this. I can't, you know, whatever. I can't take a break because there's so much work to do.
Right.
Or
fake pressures that don't even exist. It's like no one's sitting there like, you know, the world's not going to explode if you don't do this.
Putting all this extra pressure on you.
Right.
But it's a dangerous trap, because the more burnt out you get, the more you fall into those mindsets.
And
like,
you lose clarity.
You continue to like slide deeper into that like scattered, rushing, reacting.
I get like that. I get super, you know me, I get super reactive when I'm feeling super burnt out, that I get reactive.
Oh yeah. Sky's falling all the time.
Sky's falling.
Yeah.
Like John, I'm like calling John, sky's falling.
End of the world.
He's like, it's fine. We'll deal with it in the morning. I'm like, this guy is not on my level.
You gotta zoom out. Like
I gotta zoom. I like that. I gotta zoom out.
Yeah, like
I'm zoomed in. I gotta zoom out.
Literally, like another day is gonna happen. You know, you're gonna wake up tomorrow. Hopefully.
Well, hopefully. You will. You're a machine.
I know.
You'll be up
on the dot. Yeah.
I feel like I think one of the things that for me that contributes, or a big reason why I feel burnt out sometimes, is when I feel like misidentified, when I like when I'll believe what others say about me. Like I've had mentors come to me and say, Levi, what are you doing in business? You should be in ministry, like church ministry. I'm a Christian, whatever. So then, or they say the opposite. What are you doing here? You should be doing that. And then, or someone, oh, you're a skateboarder. You should be doing more skateboard stuff. Or your hair, like, what are you doing? Are you like talking about this and doing this, whatever? So then I get caught up in this, what other people are calling out on me. And then I kind of lose motivation, because I'll get 5 minutes into something and then be like, who the heck am I? This isn't like, this is actually what I want to do. And there's like the amount of times that I like false start or false flag on social media because I've tried to be the hair guy or be the skateboard guy or be the whatever guy, the funny guy or whatever. It like, I get 10 videos into something and then I either run out of ideas or I get that way. And then again, because I get distracted or I get unmotivated, or the people I'm hanging out with that week aren't doing that stuff, or I just run out, or even the videos I'm posting are getting 300 views and not 5.2 million like Scott.
Don't worry, I've had the 300 too.
Whatever it is that demotivates me, like I've had to like restart and then realizing that I'm like, am I telling myself who I am, or am I allowing others to do it? And these are the things that cause burnout for me. Our friend Davey came out to, because he's watched me over these last 3 years like do this.
Yep.
And he's just like, dude, well, he's nicer about it, but he's like, just keep doing it. Consistency you're talking about, or start or whatever. And then I was like, dude, I don't have any more hair ideas. And then going back to what you were talking about earlier, Jill, is you're talking about authenticity. And then he's just like, just be Levi. People care about the crazy Levi. People care about the deep Levi. People care about the skateboard one, the hair one, the motorcycle, whatever. Someone's going to identify with the fact that with all your insanity and whatever, like, just be that. And the second that he kind of did that, and then he helped me with my first video, I realized, like I could just be Levi and that's okay. And then, and that what it did is it simplified my creative process, because it was like, who do I feel like being that today? Like, do I want to be crazy and loud, or short and mellow? Do I want to talk deep? Do I want to make a joke about taking whatever, like falling skateboarding or whatever? Which I'm not down for. TikTok has got too many guidelines. If I fall skateboarding, they always keep pulling down my videos. But whatever it is, I just find like these, if I take on these identities, or I misidentify, or I put too much pressure on myself, that's where I find myself every single time. It's like burnt out. It sucks because like I'm not being authentic in that way. So I don't know.
I think you're hitting on a real like important point though for a lot of people, because I think we get fed a little bit of this thing, which is I think what's taking you down that cycle where it's like niche down, pick your thing. You got to do all of the same thing. It can only be this type, like especially on social media. But I think in general, like that's a pretty common, like find that one thing, do it over and over again. And yet the most interesting people in the world are often the hair cutting, skateboarding, like guy that marries people on the weekend. Like you, like that's a fascinating persona,
because it's so odd. It's such an odd mix.
I love that.
but like what I'm saying is that but
it's awesome.
It's beautiful.
That's what makes it interesting.
And that's what makes you
I'll just take this as encouragement, sir.
Well, no, because it's unconventional. It's unconventional.
Well, I'm leaning into it because I think like there's a lot of other, like I feel that way a lot, where like I'll share something on social media and it's like, that is one dimension of what I do.
Right.
But then it's like, I will self-censor or hold back on a whole nother thing because it like doesn't fit the theme.
Right.
Or it like, and don't get me wrong, I think there's a place, like I encourage Jared, who's my roommate, who's an R&B artist, where I'm like, dude, if you're trying to be an R&B artist, like keep your Instagram, your R&B, you know, like, so like,
keep
you know,
the business card,
you know, like I'm like, hey,
card,
you know, like Jared, love you. But I'm using it as an example to say like, there's ways to incorporate multiple layers of your life, and I think your personal life's interesting, and we could dive into that on a different episode where you're saying like, hey, there's tools within social media apps that work well for different elements, right? And I think you can say, hey, I'm going to use my reels or my feed for this. My stories are going to be where I'm showcasing this aspect of my life. Like there's ways to layer, like to show your layers. But I think too often we get caught in fully censoring like huge chunks of us because we believe that like, because everybody else's lives look one dimensional, that then like if you're a multi-dimensional creative person, that you can't be that.
Well, you're going to also get energy from the things that you love, right? Like if you put yourself in a box, keep putting yourself in different boxes, not mixing it all together, like you're just not going to show up authentic. It's like authentic. Cannot speak today.
Authentically.
I said it well. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, and the thing that like keeps us alive, keeps us from burnout is authenticity.
Yeah.
Like, well, at least for me, like that's because it's so
doing
important.
what you love.
Yeah, I'm an emotionally driven person. I'm not necessarily psychologically or mentally driven person. Like what motivates me is how I feel, which isn't always helpful, but it like.
Well, I think we all handle pressure differently.
Right, 100%.
You know, different people can have a bigger capacity to like take on a lot, and they can just, ride through the storm. And some other people, you say one little thing and it just throws them off. And then you're just like, why are you upset? But, we all have different capacities to what we can handle emotionally, mentally, financially. Some people can just like, the world can come at them and they just figure a way to, I figure it out. I love an obstacle. It makes me stronger, whereas other people like look at one thing and go like, I'm doomed, and you can get caught in that doom and gloom. And so, and some of our capacities differ based on where we are mentally. Like there are days where I can conquer anything, and there's other days where it's over.
Right.
I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that our capacities are different, and they're different on different days.
Totally.
And pressure, there is fake pressure, but then there is 100% real pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure to, pay your bills. Feed your family. Pay those bills
Survive,
come, and they, the overdue. Now they text you when you're overdue on things. It's like you get an email, then you get a text, and it's like, guys, I know it's overdue. You know what I mean? Like, Right. I don't need every way of communication to let me know. Like, don't worry, you'll get paid. But the thing about it is there is real pressure, and those things you have to meet certain deadlines, and then you get caught in the like, it's nice, all the airy fairy, like, oh, do what you love. But then it's like, I got to pay this bill. Yeah. And that means grinding, that means working. And then sometimes that is the reality of life kicks in,
Yeah, totally. I'm really into this personality system called human design, which talks about people like in a very kind of varied way, which is super fun. So it's not for everyone, but
what is it? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, for sure. It basically talks about how we create our energy. There's 5 different types. One of them, or actually 2 of them, create their energy very much from what they do. Like this gives me energy. There's other types in that system too, that they actually don't get energy from what they do, but they get energy from the people that they surround themselves with. So if you think of it, like, I think the way that we're talking to is a very more binary, like black and white in a way, like, oh, do what you love and you'll get energy from it. But some people are definitely not wired that way. Some people, it's actually about cultivating a life that, you could work maybe 3 hours a day in the morning and then focus on honing your craft in the afternoon. And that's going to prevent you from burnout. So figuring out what works for you. And sometimes that goes against how we've been conditioned in society to work.
I think I've been facing that.
Have you?
Well, just the like, because I think I'm with you, and we talked about this the last episode. But you were talking about that 40-hour work week structure, and this like almost like guilt around not working or around like, I think I feel mega guilt in a weird way, or I feel like I'm not doing something if I don't start like on a quote unquote work day, and I'm not like starting working until like if I didn't start doing some sort of work till like 11 or like 10 or 11, I would feel behind. Like now that's not because I'm actually behind, or it's again like coming back to I'm like it's all on me because I'm the one managing my schedule. Like that's the irony is like I can work whenever, you know, like
you could work 11 to 7.
I could work in the middle of the night if I want. Like no one's sitting there with a.
But your mind says.
But my mind is going, oh man, I'm behind.
9.
Oh man, I'm already behind. Like you know, and
have you done anything to move away from that or that guilt at least or?
I think so. Your wife actually was like a little impact because I context like I've probably in my life gone through these like cycles of burnout. So what I do, or like I'm gonna say I'm changing, so I'm not doing my best to not do that anymore. But I'll essentially go probably, I don't know, it could go as short as maybe like 6 months, could go as long as a year, depending on like what's happening. But without fail, I would like work, and like go, like to the point where like I would start to see like it kind of the crash coming, and I'd be just smart enough and like self-aware enough to know how to like pull myself out of it, but then it would never be like a long enough fix to fix the underlying like
you weren't dealing
problem.
With it.
Right. So it's like putting a Band-Aid on it, or like, and it would be like a Band-Aid that would get me buy me another 6 months. Right. But like all I would be doing is like buying more time before I'd experience
an official meltdown.
that same thing again. And so then like this goes back probably, I don't know, maybe few months ago. It was probably in the summer, like, and I remember coming into the office and I was meeting with Jessica and literally just sat down and was just like, honest, like I tried working that morning and was like full hit the wall. It was like what you were talking about when your brain's just like, I'm done. Like,
Right.
I'm out. And I was supposed to be having like a finance meeting with her.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
Those are fun.
yeah. And like,
Sounds like a party.
yeah. And it's one of those where like I have capability in it. And this is also one of those difficulties where like, I think you can have competence in something, but it's not something that you should probably be doing, you know, and I'm realizing that in certain aspects of my life where just because I'm capable or like good at it doesn't mean I should be doing it.
Right.
Or should be looking at ways to get that off my plate. And so we were just going to go through some stuff. And I think, and I had to just flat out be like, hey, honestly, like, do you mind, can we just talk? Like, you know, honestly, like I'm not doing okay. Like I've literally, and I think sometimes that's the first step, honestly, like
is acknowledging,
is just like, you know, especially with people that you trust, like if you hit that place, like, hey, here's where I'm at. I don't know. I don't have an answer. And it was like in that moment, I think, honestly, I realized I probably hadn't done that much in past cycles. I'd probably still mostly internalized it, wrote it out. And so this time around, it was a little different because then like she was just like, hey, like, let's try this. Here's a suggestion for your schedule this week. Here's something, you know, and it was the little push to go, okay, I'm going to actually shift the way I'm looking at my weeks. I'm going to try batching my Tuesdays and Thursdays into deep work days, and like Mondays and Wednesdays are like meeting days,
relational days. Yeah.
Just like, cause with what we do, it's like, there's so many times where you're like, I got to book a meeting. And I was just booking meetings like every day of the week. And then what was happening was stuff was piling up that like real work that I had to do.
Right.
But there was never enough like
you got 2 hours, but it's
windows
a
of
6-hour job.
time to ever like get there because you're like switching. Right.
Well, and I think it's important to come to the place where you do the first step is acknowledging like, I'm not okay. Like I don't have the capacity for this instead of trying to push through. And then because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you're going to break down, and people need to give themselves the understanding. And unfortunately, even you were too far, you know, because
I was calling you like
you were calling me.
I don't know if it was before that or around the same time, but like, I called Scott one day driving to work and I was like, hey, my heart's doing some weird thing. Like, I was like, I'm feeling some weird stuff in my chest. Like, I know you've gone through, like, dealt with anxiety and stuff like this. Like, do you think I should go to the hospital and get this checked? Or like, is this sound familiar? And he was like, that sounds familiar. Like, and that helped like incredibly. Cause like, we just talked about it, and honestly, just me parked in like a random parking lot, pulled off to the side of the road, like talking to someone and being like, I could already feel my body like
totally
coming down.
Your mind is so powerful. And when you believe a story, your body reacts. Your body totally reacts with the story you're believing in your mind. And I find that one thing to diffuse it is to speak it out loud to other people so they can put some light on it. Yeah. Because then when you start to go, okay, what I'm feeling is normal. I'm not okay. You start to, it releases all that tension, and you start to come to the realization that there's more commonality in this thing with other people. They're feeling or have felt this way, and it reduces it. And so I think that the number one step for burnout is admit where you are, identify it, talk to people you trust, and let them know that you're not okay, and figure out a solution. And even that alone is like half of the work.
Oh, it was so much.
So much freedom.
Like I was shocked just
it's not the
next
end.
Week. Oh, it didn't
work through
fix
it.
It didn't fix all my built up years of probably like repetition that's built
we need counseling for that.
Because you don't burn out in a moment.
That takes time.
It's time. It's time.
You know?
Everything's built up over time.
I think the thing is too, though, it's like, do we have to get to the point where we burn out to identify as burnout?
Unfortunately, a lot of people do.
I think so, but I think the the challenge is to look at the patterns to be able to identify it before you're in that position and be able to relate, like find someone to relate about it, because we do need that. We do need to like get our feelings validated, our experience validated, and it is valid. But for us to constantly be like, okay, I'm going to go again, and then we hit the wall.
Totally.
It's like, that's where, you know, it's just going to take us out one day.
Right. Whereas like regular counseling appointments or regular like, hey, every Tuesday or like last Tuesday of the month I take off and I go hang out with my kids or whatever. Okay. Maybe on a lighthearted note, has there ever been a time where you've either had a meltdown in public or you melted down and took it out on someone else in a funny way, not a dark way?
I'm trying to think. Have I?
I haven't experienced that from you.
You haven't seen it from me. No.
I've had a lot of like meltdowns in the marketing world, but we're still here.
I'm trying to think if I've had a meltdown.
I think all of my past employers like would have seen it, but like they're like,
no
we're in
funny
this
stories.
Together. I don't know that it's funny. It's just sad.
I mean, it's a sad topic, and it's one we all deal with. I'm just trying to.
I like I appreciate your humor, your ability to try and.
I'm just trying.
Yeah.
So
if I had a story, I would literally tell it. Oh, you have one?
Well, one where I should have, like. So,
you should have melted.
So I was working at Starbucks. You
worked at Starbucks?
I was 18. Yeah.
How long did you work there for?
Like 7 months.
What's your drink order?
Oh, I used to have this one. I can't even remember it now, but it literally was like hot Fruit Loops. It was like, sounds disgusting.
That's a drink?
Yeah. Well, I didn't just order. Can I have hot Fruit Loops?
Oh, it tasted like hot Fruit Loops.
Tasted like, it was basically like.
I'm confused.
What is that? Man, what is that? A London Fog. It was because you know how that kind of tastes like.
Yeah, it kind of does actually.
Yeah. So then it was that with some extra.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's what?
Lavender?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Fruit Loops, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, so that was my so that was my drink. But when I was working at Starbucks, I had already put in my 2 weeks because I was going to work at a ski hill. So then my manager was probably only 2 years older than me. I was working on drive. It was 6 a.m, and people are like ticked off at 6 a.m. They're not happy. So like there was probably 4 cars waiting. By the time this person made it to the front, you know, I was like keeping it together, calm, whatever. Our bar was crushing it. Everyone's doing a great job. Someone comes up. I can't say everything she said on here, but she comes up to the window. I said, "Hi, did you have 3 tall peppermint mochas or something?" And she's like,
she was upset.
Oh man, she's just like, what in the hell kind of operation are you guys doing in there? And then she basically was just like, "Are you guys all like effing stupid and what all so?" And I was like, "No, I'm sorry. What did you have then?" And then I went to the next order. I'm like, "Oh, did you have this?" And she's like, "No, cussing me out, whatever." And then she's like, "Where's your manager?" I was like, "I'll grab a manager." And then I go to leave, and then she said, "No, come back." So I came back, and then she's just like, "Who's in there? What kind of C word is running this and C word is that?" And then I just closed the window on her, and I went and I to grab my manager. Manager came out, and then like my manager just like wasn't putting up with it, didn't deal with it, whatever. And then I got the drinks, and I handed them to her, and she was so mad. She like flipped me off, like gave me the bird and middle finger.
Did she pay for the drinks?
I think she gave him.
What was she mad about? You just got the wrong drink order,
and she had to wait too long or something like that at 6 a.m, whatever. And then so she called us like all a bunch of C words and all that kind of stuff.
So
this woman needed her coffee.
And then my manager was just like, "You already put in your 2 weeks. Why didn't you throw her drinks at her?" She was like promoting it. She's like, "Why the heck didn't you? She already put in your 2 weeks." And I was like, "Oh, I guess it's too early."
They could have get sued, throwing hot coffee at somebody. So you did the right thing. You did the right thing.
Why didn't you throw?
I love that your manager was like they were living out their life vicariously through you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just sabotage your life.
Throw a hot scolding coffee on this woman.
You're already quitting.
Oh man.
But
they're like, Starbucks has insurance. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
I was okay, and then actually after the ski hill, we had to wear these. We were snowmaking, and you'd like make.
Snowmaking.
Okay, yeah. So that's the thing.
You have all these odd jobs.
I know. If you're not from Canada, so once it gets to below -5, and on the ski hills, sometimes it doesn't snow enough, so they have to make snow. So it's like a chemical they mix with water. They shoot out of these high-powered guns, and it shoots and it turns into snow in the air.
Right.
Anyway, so we're doing this, but there are such high-powered lines that we had to wear Skidoo helmets all the time, like those big like motorcycle helmets, because if the hose fell off, they had metal clamps on that hit you in the chin and mess you up. Anyways. So we'd wear this all. So lonely, like you couldn't hear anything. You were like, whatever. I remember I was going through a breakup at the time, so I was like extra dark in my head all day long, all that stuff. I was working with this guy that frustrated me so much. He made me so mad. And like he had this like, Normally an Australian accent is like super attractive and enticing and really fun. Oh man, I just wanted to clock him every time. He was so he's a jerk. So anyways, we'd be trying to like air out these lines and do all this different stuff. Anyways, I straight up tried to fight him. Like, and again, I'm not a fighter, but I was like middle of breaking up with this girl. Like I can't talk to anyone because I'm in the Scooty helmet all day long. And this is after the Starbucks thing. Anyways, I like one time, like, so the person had to like, so to air out these lines, you'd unplug them from the water hose and then you'd plug them in the air and then you'd crank, like you'd someone had to go stand on the other end of the hose and stand on it with their Scooty helmet and you'd slowly let out the air and it would blow the air out so that the hose didn't freeze. But then I was like, you go do this, blah, blah, blah. And then he like wasn't listening. He was being a jerk. So he went and stood on the end, and right when he got close to the end, I just cranked the thing open. And I've been hitting the chest with one of those things. I had a bruise like the size of a soccer ball in the middle of my chest, like once when the end of it smoked me in the chest. I just cranked it on this dude. And then he like clipped him in the wrist, and then I shut it off and I just threw my arms up at him and he just ran at me full blast. Anyways, I just like stood there and nothing ever happened. But then all my manager said was like, what did he do? And I just told him the whole story truthfully, how I just told it right there. And the manager just laughed. He's like, you can't do that. Okay, go back to work. And that was it. Anyways, there's me having meltdowns at work. So.
Yeah.
These are meltdowns. Meltdown hour with Levi. Wow.
I was 19. That was like...
You're 19.
That was like 14 years ago. Oh, so old.
I like to melt down in private, you know?
Big meltdown in private guy.
Hold it together. You hold it together, smiling on it, and just go...
to meltdown in private.
Go home and just like... You know, I feel like it's the safest
just
way.
Scream into the pillow.
Totally. It's the safest way is just to go home and be like, why?
Yeah.
And then you get over it.
Oh,
and,
fair.
You know? And then I do think part of it is grieving and breaking.
Sure.
A good cry, you know?
Oh man.
It can do wonders. And then you go like life. Pick up and move on, you know? So
Yeah. For me, like, okay, burnout, the thing that I've done to help regulate myself and prevent burnout has been being really cognizant about my calendar. So I'm kind of psycho, and I have a Calendly situation where
you use Calendly?
I use Calendly, and I only allow...
Those are a type of people.
That is, you have a type A person
Yeah.
on your couch.
Calendly?
I send it to my friends to book me.
No
I
way.
I do.
I've booked time with Jill with her calendar.
with my Calendly.
Wait,
Okay, that's
just
So
for like
this is-
fun? Like, let's grab a tea?
Yeah, it works really
So
good.
You
basically-
send them a Calendly link?
Yeah.
Do they get to look at your
Yeah.
calendar?
As soon as someone says,
Yeah, so
all
no,
my
no, no.
times
Okay,
are
so
here,
this is
and
how-
then with the clickable link,
This is how
you
it
know your
happened.
next level.
This is how
It was
happened.
great. It worked well.
I should do it.
No,
You
it
should.
actually is such a huge hack.
You're right. It's probably good.
It's great.
Oh, for you, it'd be amazing.
I need to do it.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
too, because everyone always wants your time.
Yeah.
I think I've been converted to the Calendly.
Okay, you've been. I even said it for 1 second, and you've already.
We're
been
already
converted.
there.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So go on.
This
Basically,
podcast is
like-
brought to you by Calendly.
Because I like work as a photographer and I'm like full time somewhere else, I need to be really specific about when people can
It
sign
is
up for
good.
meetings with me. So I had the account. Then I upgraded because I also have a podcast, and then I was like, I need like a discovery call thing. So I upgraded, and I was like, wow, I have 8 opportunities to have people come to my calendar. So for me, a couple friends like had moved out of town. I was like, how do I prevent or like give them my calendar? I was like, I should use Calendly. It's great. But what's been amazing about that is like every single calendar that I have, I can put the boundaries on it that I need to preserve my time. So for example, I only take discovery calls like on my lunch break at work, which is 12 to 1. And then I'm only available for photo shoots on Saturdays right now because that's all the capacity that I have. And then when it comes to hanging out with friends, because I have a virtual hangout one and then I have an actual hangout one. And this is my rule for this, is I don't actually like give it to all my friends all the time. But if we're starting to do that back and forth cat and mouse chase, when are you free? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. That's when I send them my link. And I say, no problem.
That's a
Figure
good
it out.
rhythm because
That
then,
is good.
then it's not feeling like you don't want to be that friend that's
That's
like
a time saver.
Here's my link.
that's like book me.
Book
But then
me,
at
yeah.
least if it's not organic and you sent them a couple times, you're like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
free Friday at 6.
Yeah.
And then they're doing back and forth. You're like, hey, well, this might be easier.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
It's been really helpful for me, and it sounds kind of crazy, but because I'm paying for the upgrade, I was like, might as well make this work for me,
Yeah.
and it's
like
been
it.
really, really helpful.
And I gotta look into that.
Calendly's the best,
Calendly.
actually, for hair appointments. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Oh, you don't have...
I use Vagaro. It's
Oh,
like
I
a
use-
different. Yeah, yeah,
That's how I have to book.
yeah. It's
Vagaro. It's very annoying.
It honestly
I
like
always forget my
it
password.
works, but it's like there's a lot of like
Mhm.
it's a very clunky.
Yeah,
piece
it's
of-
clunky.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like Google's coming out with something similar, but it's just
That's
been a really
Probably.
great way for me to like, you know.
I think
boundaries
one
and
thing you're
stuff.
saying is identifying the things that help you build. And I think I like
Build
what
rhythms,
I
yeah.
like what you hit on earlier is identifying the things that help you so you don't get to burnout. I think a lot of us get to burnout. We're like, I'm in a bad place. And then we're like, now I need, you know what I mean? But the whole point is, as creators, how do you avoid burnout and how do you identify the things that you need to get you so far away from being even burnt out? But it's hard. I think, like I said, we talked about fake pressures and real pressures. And I think it is hard to get caught up in this rat race, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in this place where you're just so completely overwhelmed, and you're like, I don't have systems, I don't have structures, I don't have the right voices, you know. And if you are a people pleaser where you're always trying to do things to appease people, then you get caught in this circle where you're just like, man, I'm in a bad place. And unfortunately, for most people, we get to the bad place before we even, you know.
What are those kind of anchors for you? Like the
Ooh.
prevention or the things that you've found?
I'm still learning. I think partly one is reducing, we talked about it in the productivity one, but reducing the guilt. And for me, it's not as easy as saying as, like for me, going to the gym in the mornings is so important. And because I have kids, sometimes I get there a little later than I want. I'd love to start my workday at 9. I used to be pre-kids, I'd go to the gym at 6 a.m. But now sometimes I
You sounded like you were happy about that.
I loved getting to the gym at
6
6.
a.m.
I loved it. I loved getting up at 6 and being
You
at the
guys have
gym.
never seen this guy without a shirt on. He's got
And then-
pecs and a six pack in his 30s.
No.
Let's go.
Anyway, all that to say, I had to readjust, and then I really felt guilty when I went to the gym around 9 because I'm like, I should be working. I go to the gym at 6 because I was operating that old mentality, but then not forgiving myself for my new normal because I was helping my wife with the kids and then going to the gym a bit later. And then sometimes I go to the gym at 10 and thinking I'm in the middle of what I should be.
Yeah. It was like what I was talking about.
Exactly.
That same kind
But
of
then
guilt.
now what I've done is giving myself that grace and that understanding
permission
that
that-
don't,
yeah.
even though I feel guilty, it's like I have to say in my mind, don't feel guilty. You need this for your mental clarity. You need this for your overall health. You will be a better person for being here, you know, and doing that thing that gives you that refreshment. And so it's almost like I still have the guilt, but I have to like speak to the guilt and say, it's okay. It's okay to be here at 10 o'clock because I live, you know, I'm a certain age, I have a family, I have kids, and I've got a business. It's okay for this to be my new normal and not try and get back to the way it was. So for me, pillars are identifying my new normals, giving myself the permission in those moments, and then also not responding to all the pressures. The moment I get an email, I don't need to respond to that
That's
email
good, yeah.
right here, right now.
Yeah.
I can take time to formulate an answer and identify how I feel about the
or
situation.
batch when you want to reply.
Or batch when I want to reply. And it's okay to reply to that later in the day. They don't need an answer right now. Identifying things like that where, you know, or if I get a message from someone, a DM, and then just read it and go, hey, I've seen it. I'm going to reply to this tomorrow. Like giving myself those permissions to see the person, but then let them know I'll get to it. And also just not feel the pressures. Like you can't meet everybody's need.
Yeah.
And I will unknowingly, more often than not, disappoint people. And that's okay. I can't make everybody love me. And so, and that's the thing I think has been one of the hugest things because in my younger years, I was definitely a very, very, very high people pleaser. I've overcome that hump. And I think I did that because I'm just like, it's an unmeetable expectation.
Yeah.
And I will unknowingly have a lot of people disappointed in me. But if you meet me in real life, I promise you that you hopefully will enjoy my company.
I promise that you hope.
And if I hurt you, it was so not intentional.
Yeah.
You know?
There's only so much time that we have in a day.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Levi, how about you? Any preventative?
Well, preventative things so I don't burn out.
Yeah. Or like things that you've like, I think we all know some of those things that seem to keep us like in a better space.
I have like keep people. There's like certain people like we talked about in another podcast that we filmed and recorded was rings of people, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm a words of affirmation person. So when we talk about like love languages and how I get filled up, you know, and so I know there's been times for me when I've reached out to people and been like, I'm not feeling well today, kind of like you did with Jess. So you talked about that, and some of them know the drill. Some of them are like tough love people, and I don't know why I've chosen them to be on that list, because they'll just be like, get your act together.
We need those too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just need someone, like, which my wife is so
To
good
just
at
be
that. Like,
there.
I'm like,
Yeah.
babe, do I suck? Like, am I doing the wrong thing? Am I walking in the wrong direction? Things are hard today. Or like, she'll start giving me advice, and I'm like, I don't need advice. Like, it's that typical communication. I don't need advice right now. I just need encouragement. And then she'll just switch into the mode of like, you're crushing it. Like, Leva, you're so funny, you know, whatever. She'll play into it. You're handsome. You're all these things, whatever. But it gets me to be like, okay, I got enough juice to like get through the day, and then be able to look at my stuff and be like, what is unhealthy? What is useless? What is whatever? And because for me, I get caught up. I mentioned earlier that I have many things on the go, which is helpful because I can't focus very well, but it's hard when I'm trying to get motivated to get something done. And so I sometimes just have to like look at my week and be like, this is a week for hair. I'm a hairstylist. Yeah. So then the next week it's like, you know what? I'm working half hair and I'm doing TikTok, or I'm doing whatever. So I don't know. I think a big thing for me is just reaching out when I need help, asking help. There's been times in my life where I've seen a counselor and it's been so amazing. It's so helpful. And they give lots of good strategies. And then again, it is like, it maybe sounds cliche because we talk about it so much, but it's like that self-care. Like, what does it look like? It's not always like sleeping and eating, you know, whatever. It's like, sometimes it is going skateboarding or doing different things or whatever. But I would say the real thing for me is words of affirmation. Is really just that. And then looking and being like, what is being destructive in my life? And I keep a lot of people on red on my phone, and a lot of emails. Of you know what though? But it sits there, and then I'll get the motivation at 11 p.m. and I'm just like, boom, 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 boom. And
you got to be there. It's got to be done.
Because sometimes like when someone's asking me a deep question and I'm in the middle of like, I just got to do this thing. I can't, I feel the stress rising and I just put it away. Yeah. Because I just can't. Like if I try to do that, the rest, everything's going to kind of fall. Yeah. But I don't know.
That's good.
We got to wrap up here, but this has been a really good conversation. We're going to keep talking about stuff here on the Socality Show. If you guys like this content, make sure you keep coming back, but we're going to keep it real. You can always also drop in the comments things that you want us to talk about, because we are happy to talk about them. I want to thank everybody for listening. Yeah. We hope that you don't get to burnout. Make sure you surround yourself with good friends. Be honest where you're at and find the things that work for you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to hit like and subscribe. You can enjoy the audio version of this podcast wherever you consume your podcast. We'll see you soon.